first episode, and we're so excited to have you here. Today, we are going to be discussing Black in Madrid. So, if you don't know, we have a new 9-episode docuseries out called Black in Madrid, and what it does, it highlights the lives of 9 Black people living in Spain. And now these are all different types of Black people, like people from everywhere, from Senegal, people who are actually from Spain, American people. We have 2 people who are from London as well. So it's truly exciting to have this documentary out. It's been a long time coming. We had 2 amazing people work on this documentary with us. It was Sidra Bing and Alexandra Dorante. They helped produce the documentary. And let me tell you, it was just a whirlwind. It was a great experience working with them. And we got the opportunity to really not only just shoot the documentary itself, but we got to learn a lot of different things about Spanish culture, about I'm sorry, look at this. I can't let me get it together. My mic's all I just look so sloppy. But it's okay. I digress because it's real, right? But we got a chance to just like really dive into the minds of a lot of different people. So that was cool. And we hope that we got the same feeling seeing it as you get the same feeling watching it as we did making it. But today, without further ado, that introduction was just unnecessarily long, but it's okay. Without further ado, I have a very special guest. This girl is one of my best friends. I think she's so smart. I think she's so beautiful. She's so amazing. Her name is Hannah. She is a very special person, very intelligent Black woman from Spain. She was born and raised in Spain. And today we're going to just talk to her about her experience growing up Black in Spain. Hannah, how are you?
Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
So Hannah is a little camera shy, but it's okay because I was desperate to get Hannah on here. I was so desperate, I swear, seriously. I was, and I'm happy that you're on here. So I really appreciate you coming here. So Hannah, can you tell people a little bit about yourself? Where exactly are you from? How old you are? And just tell us about yourself. We want to hear about you.
Well, thank you for having me, Tranika. And I think the same thing about you. And I think what you're doing with Melon in Madrid is so great.
Uh,
And I appreciate it. And a lot of people appreciate it. Um, but yeah, so my name is Hannah and I'm 25. I've lived in Madrid my whole life. And I studied politics, and now I'm working as a communication strategist for a political party. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. So can you tell us about your family and your background? Tell us about your mom, your dad, how they met. Let's hear it.
All right. So I'm Spanish born and raised, but my dad is from Cameroon. It's a country in West Africa, and my mom is from Morocco, which is in North Africa. And I have a little sister. Well, she's not that little anymore. And my parents met here in Madrid. Also, um, they met at a wedding. um, Coincidentally, it was a wedding between a Cameroonian man and a Moroccan woman. And my mom was the friend of the bride, and my dad was the friend of the groom.
Hmm.
So they met in that wedding in the 90s, and then I was born.
Yes. What a time to be alive. So when they met, did they kind of have discussions like, okay, we're gonna live in Cameroon, we're gonna live in Morocco, we're gonna stay in Spain? Did they ever like think that they were gonna move to each other's countries?
I have no idea
Ah,
because my parents, like, the relationship is kind of weird because we don't really talk about like that, because like since for as long as I can remember, I only can remember them fighting. Like they're separated now
okay.
and much better now, but like I never really ask them about like them as a couple because like I could see they couldn't stand each other when I was a
Oh
kid. So
no.
it was like, like they can't stand each other. Like I know how they met, but I don't know if they
Mm-hmm.
had any discussions about anything, or if they did, I don't know what it was about. The
Mm.
only thing that I know is that my dad came to Spain because of his studies. He got a scholarship here in Spain, so he started going to university to college here, and then he stayed.
Mm-hmm.
But he was always thinking about like going back. Like his goal was never to stay here. But
Mm-hmm.
life happens. Like
Yes.
so a lot of things can happen. And then he started his own business here. He was an English teacher, English and French teacher, when nobody knew languages in Spain, because this is it's kind of like the history of Spain is kind of like this. We've been in a dictatorship for like 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
so people were catching up to speed, to the rest of Europe and America, and people didn't know languages. So he started his own business. He had an academy,
Mm-hmm.
and he then met my mom and everything. So he ended up staying. And then my mom, she came here because she was working as how do you say it? She wasn't a cleaner. She was like she cleaned and she cooked. She did everything with a family in Morocco. I don't know how you say that in English, but she was working with this family, and the family was loaded. Like there were those like rich Moroccans.
Mm-hmm.
They were loaded, so they would come on vacation to Spain. They would go to Marbella, they would go to Barcelona, they would go to like different places. And then she was a kid. She was like 17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
and she saw all the compared to Morocco, all the freedom that she had in Spain. She
Mm-hmm.
had like rights as a worker. She didn't have rights in Morocco. She could have a good salary as a worker, whereas in Morocco it was harder to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So she told the family that she was going back to her village to visit her mom for a week. She took her passport and she went to the airport and flew to Spain with like a couple of pesetas, which was the currency we had before the euro, in her
Mm-hmm.
pocket. She could barely speak Spanish. She took a taxi and just gave him a direction and just like found a new job at a new house.
Mm-hmm.
Because she had this plan with another Moroccan girl that was working with the family as well. Because there
Mm-hmm.
were so many like around that time, like we're talking about the late 80s, like the early 80s to late 80s. Spain was like booming economically, and a lot of middle class families were hiring help from overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And the cheapest help were Moroccan girls and Dominican girls.
Mm-hmm.
So many women that came to Spain around those years were to work with those, rich white families in Spain. So my
Mm-hmm.
mom was one of those. And she came here and she stayed here ever since.
Mm-hmm. So just watching your mom, because your mom is really phenomenal and she's really beautiful. She's
Thank
just
you. I'll
phenomenal.
share.
Watching your mom um, work hard for you guys, especially being a single mom with you and Nadia, which is your sister. How did that influence you do you think that that just pushed you to work a lot harder? Because you have a different type of drive, like something that I've really never seen before. First of all, Hannah is Spanish. Like, let's don't get it like she's Spanish. She learned English. We'll talk about how she learned English or whatever. But I want to just talk about this. Like, do you think like you draw a lot of strength from your mom because you are like just super, you're amazing. So do you think you draw a lot of strength from your mom? And do you think seeing your mom really like inspired you to work even harder?
Thank you for that compliment. That was great.
I love you, girl.
Definitely. I'm not sure if I was always conscious about it, but I do remember that when I was like sophomore in college, I was like very big into like feminism. You know that. You met me around that time. And
Yes.
I was just like fighting for women's rights and going to every assembly, every demonstration, just like very active. And I remember that I don't know what happened that day, but I remember thinking that if I could have all the time to like read feminist theory, to go to class, to kind of like be this leader in like the student movement for women's rights, for Black women's rights, if I could do all of that, was because my mom was taking care of everything necessary for me to do that. So like she was working hard, like she was the help for you know old lady in Madrid,
Hmm.
and then she would all do all the grocery shopping. She would clean every day the house, so she wouldn't just have one job outside of the house. She would
Hmm.
come into the house and have another job, just so I could go out and do all this stuff. So like, how can a champion for like women's rights and like be so into the activism when I go back home and everything is already taken care of because I have another woman in the house doing all that work? So when I realized that, I started thinking like my feminism should take care of the home first. Like, I can't be saying that I'm like a champion for women's rights when I don't help my mom
Ooh.
in the daily activities, right?
Yes. That and
So
that's a lot of times I think we don't really just examine ourselves. A lot of times, people say that charity starts at home. Like you have to take care of your home first. And I think people, they forget that. So I think that was a very important thing for you to just, to be introspective and to be like, okay, like, let me examine myself first before I'm out here trying to champion and tell people like you need to be a feminist, you need to do that, do this. So that's a very, very poignant observation that you made.
yeah,
Transformational, even for real.
it
Hmm.
really was like it completely changed my goals. Like I had different goals before and after that realization.
Hmm.
So then after that, all I wanted to do was to like make my mom's life easier because it hadn't been easier up until then. Because she has been working since she was 7, since she was a baby practically. So her body is tired, her mind is tired, like she's overall tired. And I cannot say that, I'm like this fighter for our collective rights when I don't even take care of the closest person to me, which is my mom. So like
Right.
my goal was like to make sure her life was as easier as possible. So when I graduated, I took up a full-time job, and we say in Spanish, jubilar a los padres. So I kind of retired my mom,
Hmm.
because I thought she had had enough, and like she wasn't treated well at the job that she was in.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know, I would give her, like a huge part of my salary just so she could have, stuff to keep going. She didn't like it. Of course, she was kind of like, like I should be doing this for you, not you for me. But I think I owe her that.
I feel
So
you.
yeah.
I definitely feel you on that. I'm gonna go to Insta so we can go live on Insta as well. But I love that you said that. And that's just something that a lot. So when you really like actually came to that realization, like how did that make you feel? Did you have any like type of guilt? Were you like, dang, like I feel guilty as hell for this?
I always feel guilty,
Hmm.
and I don't think that's a me thing. I think that a lot of like first generation child of immigrants carry that guilt somehow. I was talking to a friend that's in the same position that I am, and she recently moved out of the house, and she was saying she felt guilty because, as a as children of immigrants, we are supposed to like, give back to our parents.
Right.
Like we don't have this vision of this very Western vision of like my life is about me and about myself, which in part it is, but you know, our cultures don't really see it as such. We see everything is a collective. So I can't be, you know, for example, having a good job and like making a lot of money and then not share it with my parents or
Exactly.
my sister or the people that like helped me
Right. Let me interrupt
get
really
to where
quick.
I am.
Really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, what's up, Melanin Madrid? It's Trinika Renee. And hey, Jenny! Hey, what's up? So I have a special guest. Guys, let me know if you can hear Hannah, because Hannah is Black and she's from Madrid, born and raised in Madrid. And we're just having a discussion with Hannah, and she's just giving us all the tea about growing up in Spain, about how she became interested in feminism, how she learned English, all these different things, and even a little bit of historical context about Spain in general. So let me know if you guys can, if you can hear Hannah, okay? Like, let me know. Y'all see my melanin merch? But let me know if you can hear her. Go ahead, Hannah. Talk.
Hello, everybody.
Can you guys hear her? She just said hello.
How are we
Say it one more
doing?
time. Say it loud.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm very excited to be here.
Let me see if they can. If you can hear her, let me know. Okay, I see some hearts. So, yeah, great. Oh, glad you can hear her. So, we're just gonna continue. So, Hannah was just talking about how she came here and how her mom. I'm trying to see how we can get you guys to better hear it. Hannah, I'm gonna need. Okay, good. Christine, hey. So, but if you can, Hannah, I'm gonna need you to scream a little bit, baby girl. But so if you can just put them mouth a little closer to the mic. But
all right.
so yeah, so I have Hannah's because we're doing like a YouTube as well. So Hannah gave us a little synopsis about where she was from. She said that of course she's born and raised in Spain. Her mom is from Morocco, her dad is from Cameroon, and they ended up actually meeting at a wedding of somebody who was Cameroonian and Moroccan getting married, right? So that's how they ended up meeting. And Hannah was saying that she got into feminism and when she was in 10th grade, a sophomore in college, and then she started to like just be very introspective. She started to think like, wow, I'm really championing for everyone else. And then she said her mom was working hard because her mom was cleaning houses, and she said like, hey, I need to champion for my family first. So I thought that that was very special, very interesting, and just amazing like Hannah is. So Hannah, we're going to continue with this conversation. So as you know, of course, Black in Madrid, our docuseries is out. Shout out to Sidra and Alex for producing and directing the documentary. So Sidra and Alex, hey, so when you were watching Lucia's story, what part of her story resonated with you the most?
Oh, the part where she really explains where
Mhm.
she grew up. Like, she's from Alcorcón, so like Alcorcón is right next to my city, to Móstoles. And the things that she was talking about were so familiar to me. And she actually like wrote for the longest this column about, you know, the what we call the hood in Spain, el barrio,
Mhm.
right? Which is, you know, it doesn't have the same connotation as it has in America, but I feel like that is something that, you know, I can really relate to as a kid growing up, because I don't know, I think there's something generational about it,
Right.
about, you know.
And for people who are saying like, wow, there are Black people that are actually in Spain, like what do you say to those people? If you can just give us a little bit of historical context, because I mean, Spain was obviously one of the largest empires, so in Europe. So can you give us a little bit of historical context about that?
Yeah, so like as you said, Spain was at one point it was the biggest empire in Europe. So it had a lot of colonies overseas. So everything that's Latin America today and parts of the Caribbean were a part of Spain. And if they speak Spanish, it's because of the Spanish influence in them. But they also had some territories in Asia. like the Philippines, and in Africa, like Morocco and Equatorial Guinea, which is in Western Africa.
Yes.
So we're talking about the 1400s, around that time, up until now.
Right.
So all those centuries of influence of, you know, having colonies over did not start yesterday. We have a lot of people that are Black and live in Africa that have Spanish as their first language and even have Spanish names and surnames. And the last colony that Spain lost was in 1968, which is Equatorial Guinea, which is in Western Africa. So there's a lot of people that, you know, were born before Equatorial Guinea was independent from Spain and after it was independent from Spain. And of course, a lot of people, you know, came and flew back and forth between the colonies and Spain. And there's, you know, this large chunk of people that are Black and are Spanish and have this, you know, kind of link to Spanish history out of, you know, because of the colonial history of Spain. So yes, there are Spanish people that are Black.
Yes. So I remember, Hannah, when you first came to the US. Do you remember, Hannah? Of course you remember, right? So when you first came to the US, so like I know that I had a great time in Spain when I was in Spain. So Hannah first came to the US, and I remember you know, we all have different perceptions of certain countries. So obviously, you know, the politics, we can work on that. A lot of things we can work on. You know, I'll just put that out there. But what was your perception before you went versus like maybe what you think of it now? Is it a little better or a little worse?
Well, I don't know, because like America is so big.
Yes.
So like I can't say, like, I've been to New York, I've been to Boston, I've been to DC, I've been to Texas, but they could be like entire different countries between themselves, like, and they are as big as some countries out there.
Right.
So, but when it comes to Texas, I think every Spanish person, actually, when I went, a lot of people,
we kind of lost the sound there, Hannah.
Oh, wait.
I can hear
Can
you
you hear
now
me?
better. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go.
Right. So I was saying that I think that like a lot of Spanish people, when they think of Texas, they think of like Western movies, you know, like cowboys and like desert, you know, like, and Republicans
Right.
and guns and like, you know, all the like bad connotations. But when I was there, like my first impression was that it was very green. It was greener than I thought. It was really cute because it reminded me of like Toy Story.
Really?
You know, the suburbs, the houses,
Oh yeah.
the clean blue skies, you know, because that's not like Spain is like all buildings. It's like New York, but like, you know, maybe a little less dirty.
That is so
I
funny.
don't know.
Hilarious. New York, but less.
So
yeah,
that was my first impression.
Yeah, that's so funny because I remember you were talking a little trash, but we're not gonna just say it like that. No, but it was just out of curiosity and it was out of love, and of course, like
I mean, some things about Texas frustrated me in the long run. Like when I was there the first couple of weeks, everything was amazing for me because like everything was big. Because you know, I'm big, and like in Spain is very small. Everything is very small in Spain. So I felt in Texas, I felt like I fit right in.
Right.
And I love to see Black people everywhere. I didn't feel like treated any different. And actually, people in Texas like were really warm towards me, and that's what I always remember. Like I've been to different places in the US, but I've never been treated as well as I did when I was in Texas.
She likes Texas, guys.
I love Texas.
I'm a Texan, y'all know. But yeah, so hopefully you guys can hear Hannah. Go ahead.
Yeah, but some things did frustrate me in the long run because um even if I don't feel like European or I don't feel Spanish in my day to day, when I was there, I definitely felt the influence that Europe and Spain had in me,
Yeah.
because in some things Texas was very conservative, and
Oh
I'll
yeah.
say it was very conservative, and I was not used to that.
Mhm.
So many things reminded me of Morocco, and actually when I talk to my mom, we say that Texas is like a Christian Morocco, because
That's so
the
funny.
the social, yeah, like so many things are the same as Morocco, and we have like a different way of seeing things, seeing life, and seeing how you should move through life in
Hmm.
Europe, I think overall, than in Texas. So yeah, that did frustrate me a little bit.
Yeah, I understand. It can be frustrating, especially with the need to have a car to go everywhere. You gotta go. You need a car to go everywhere, and like being able to move freely in Europe is just definitely like a is amazing versus Texas,
Yeah.
where I do drive everywhere and I have a big car that takes a lot of gas. And
Ugh.
I should be taking, we need a Patreon. I should be taking some donations. Okay.
Have
So,
get Shanika a car.
okay. Get a GoFundMe or something. No, but, so when you think about the Black community in Spain, are there any legislation in place for the community at this moment? I know that recently Rita Bosal actually um, there was a document that actually recognized the Black community in Spain. Can you kind of expand on that for us?
Yeah, so one good thing that's been happening since 2015 is the international, I don't know if it's the Decennium for people of African descent
Mm-hmm.
of the United Nations. So that it's a big task force. I think there are different task force for like different countries,
Mm-hmm.
and they are advancing like reports and investigations in regards to the people of African descent in different countries, and one of those was Spain. Um, but when it comes to national legislation, we don't have any currently going on. We do have uh, DG in racial equality that is new. It started last year,
Mm-hmm.
and Rita Basau is the DG general of it. But one one big roadblock that we have as a whole, not just in Spain but in Europe in general, is that we don't recognize race. So race does not exist in Europe in general. So it's illegal. It's actually illegal to make any reference to anybody's race. So we don't have any data. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know how many Black people are there in Spain. We have maybe estimates um, because of the countries of origin, but that doesn't really explain anything because there are a lot of people that were born in Spain um, and are actually Spanish and are Black or are mixed race, but it's actually illegal to make any references to anybody's race because we don't recognize race as a construct. So that makes it very hard to make specific legislation because if you don't exist, nobody can legislate about you. So I think one big part of Black and like equality, just activism in Spain and overall in Europe, is to make sure that we can actually recognize race in our, the data sets that we recoup, and you know just be able to actually have some data in order to be able to have legislation.
Exactly. Like you said, if you don't recognize it, so what kind of talks have there been to actually be able to recognize it? I guess that because Rita Bosal said like, okay, this, and I think it was Yason I saw her with, who they actually was that in 2015 where they were able to That's so crazy, Hannah, that it wasn't race. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
because like Europe is very scary because we did have like the Second World War,
yeah.
which was when there were distinctions made between the population, and the Jews were like the scapegoat, and like, I think when the European Union started and they try to, make everybody get along together,
Mm-hmm.
they try to erase that past and say, hey, like, let's just not talk about this because we could end up the same way we did in like 1939, and we don't want that to happen ever again. But the thing is that Europe has never reconciliated with its past, with its genocidal past, with its imperial past. And until it does, the populations here that are non-white are going to keep suffering. And yes, when you talk to Jason and Rita, in 2018, there was a non-Biden law presented to recognize the people of African descent in Spain. But it's hard because like Spanish like political history has been really rocky in the past couple of years, and after that non-binding law was presented, I think we had 2 or 3 different elections. So we have an entire different government now,
Right.
and we have to start all over again.
Dang. Uh, that can be frustrating. That is so frustrating.
It is.
So, do you see yourself um, being in Spain in the future, or where do you see yourself in the future? Are you just kind of like, because I mean, we could just say like the same about the U.S. Like, is this gonna ever change? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And you sometimes you get to a point where it's just like, okay, where am I gonna go? Where do I feel like, because we want to go where we're celebrated, right? Um, do you have any plans to move out of Spain, or are you gonna stay?
Yeah, I actually want to move to the US.
What?
Everybody says I'm crazy.
It is.
I will know in May though. I will know in May if I got the visa or not. But
Oh my
um
goodness.
I would love to move out there with y'all.
Yay. You're trying to be a city girl.
Trying to be a city girl per.
Okay. So yeah. Well, that's definitely exciting. Do you have any particular state in mind?
So I really liked Boston, but I feel like I wouldn't go to Boston unless I'm studying there, like unless
Yeah.
I'm like actually faculty member at a university or whatever.
Hmm.
But I think DC is more my
Oh
vibe because it's
yes.
very political and it
Chocolate
has a lot of
City
black
also.
people, yes, and the historical black colleges and everything. Like I think DC would be so much fun.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know about like retiring in the US though, because I do
oh
see
hell no.
myself as a young person living there and working there, but I
Hmm.
don't know if I would retire there.
No, I don't think people in the US would retire in the US. But so yeah. Let me see what other questions that I have. Um that's really it. Hannah, thank you so much for wait, let me make sure I don't have anything else.
You wanted
How
to ask me about like growing up in Spain, right?
yeah. Oh, no, I didn't. And that was the main thing. How was it just growing up in Spain, like going to like grade school? Were you like the only black kid in class?
Sometimes I was, yeah. It depended on the school that I went to because I've
Mhm.
been to quite a few. Um, but I think, yeah, it was okay in like kindergarten, and
Mhm.
then I went to primary school, and yeah, I remember being the only black girl in class,
Mhm.
and I remember they told me there was before me there was another black kid in the class, but
Mhm.
they loved him because he was blind. So
Okay.
he was blind and he was black, and everybody loved him for some reason.
Mm.
So I went there. I didn't really know many people, so I had to make new friends, and it was kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Um, but then in a third grade, there came 2 more girls. There was
Mhm.
one from Dominican Republic and another one from Equatorial Guinea.
Mm.
Um, and that was interesting because that's when I experienced colorism for the first time. Because
Mm.
the Dominican girl and me were kind of like the same tone,
Mhm.
maybe. And she had like straight, long, like long to her butt hair. Like she was really pretty. And then there was this girl from Equatorial Guinea, which was much darker than us. And I went from being the unpopular black girl to being the popular black girl because I didn't look like her.
No.
So that was kind of sucky.
Did you understand it? You didn't really understand it at that moment? What was
I
happening?
didn't. I think I did and I did not at the same time, because I was like, tell my parents, they were like, yeah, but both of you are black, like it doesn't matter,
Right.
like you're still N-words to them, you know.
Right.
And
Your parents are
but
woke.
exactly. But then I would see how I would get treated differently.
Right.
You know, I don't know. That was awkward as well.
Right.
It was awkward also because like it was all like when I started liking guys and everything, they wouldn't like, you know, black girls. They would go always with the white girls, and then you would think maybe it's just that white girls are pretty and black girls are ugly, so I'm ugly, so that's it. So that carried on to high school, and then when I went to college, I really didn't care because I started getting more into feminism and like black activism and stuff. And I don't know, I guess hanging with more woke people
Right.
and like with more black people, maybe that mindset started to shift. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Teachers, a lot of the teachers were racist, so you would know and they would know, but nobody else could tell. So you were alone against them.
Right.
As a student, so that wasn't like you know what they say about like you have to work twice as hard. Yeah, so that was high school, and that was like primary school. Some teachers would just like be straight up jealous. I don't know why, but they would be jealous. I don't know. And another thing that I didn't really like about like growing up here was the mediocrity. Yeah, sorry. It's just that
That hurt. Ouch.
Sorry. I just feel like I always say that maybe if I had the same socioeconomic status in America, and I would, you know, had I grown up in America, maybe I would have done much more than I did here. Because here it was not well seen. And one of the things that I really like about America is that people do not cut their wings. They just go for it, and they try to do everything.
Hannah, do you mind if we switch this over to Instagram? Can we do it?
Yeah, it's okay.
Because it's getting good, and I feel like Instagram needs to see it. So I'm gonna stop here, guys, and join us on our Instagram at Melanin Madrid.